Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. We can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning. Okay. I'm surprised that you guys are here because I totally screwed up my setup last night. And I thought I got it all fixed up. And then when I started the stream and everything, like, it wasn't working. And I got so caught up in doing that I didn't create the stream. So I just barely created the stream. And I started, and you guys are still here. That's so great. You guys must be using the permanent URL, huh? All right, well, come over here. How did I... So, I pushed a button somewhere to make this price squawk thing pop up, which is a feature of Jigsaw I have never used before. And I can't... Oh, okay. I just have to push it again on the thing. So what happened was I'm doing another KVM switch. Oh man, this is so great because I should put my because I had recently we had done a KVM switch, and then we had done this docking station that allows you to do 4, right? And then 6 months of not really doing any videos. And I didn't really have any time during that. Just my wife was working on the weekends, and then the 90-minute drive just sucked up all of my time and energy. So when TE Smart came to me and said, oh, we have a new switch that we want you to look at, I'm like, I just did this. I don't have the time for this. It's like a bad time. I just didn't want to do it, right? And they would not stop mailing me. They just kept following up with me, and I'm like, why won't they leave me alone? And now that I get the switch, I understand, because it fits. It's almost like they designed the switch for me. So, anyways, part of that involved me having to connect my monitors and everything to a new device, and it screwed everything up, right? So that's why I'm moving windows over here. It's because everything went to the wrong window. Let's see here. And we'll bring that over here. I'm almost there, though. Oh, there's all of my icons. Okay. Well, we'll just tuck ZT in over here still. Bring you guys up. Discord. Okay. The screens are still a little bit I don't have them locked together perfectly. And this screen I can definitely tell is slightly more green because I haven't run the, oh man. The other thing was to use this switch. I don't know. You guys don't care. I get it, but I'm going to talk about it. My main monitor that I've been using forever, it does not support HDMI. It was an older one, and at the time, DisplayPort was the only thing that supported those high refresh rates. So I had to switch monitors with my stepson. So that took a bunch too. So that's why the screen seems green to me. Also, do we have the music going? I don't have the music going. Let's see here. Okay, well, you know what? Let's go through the charts first, all right? Because you're probably sitting here like, get on with it, Seth. Get on with it. And we are rolling. We should roll oil over. And where is my volume profile chart? Okay. So yesterday, man, oh man, some crazy stuff happened yesterday. No, my pen is crashed. Okay, let's get rid of that. There we go. When this started going up at like 9 o'clock or whatever, I was freaking out. Like, what is going on? This is so crazy. And the thing is it was so isolated. And especially after we had this down move that was also pretty big. I think that this down move was actually from a comment from Waller that the news squawks didn't really pick up on. But then this was like banking crisis. So 2 banks actually made announcements that were concerning. Zion basically said that they had to take a $50 million write-down. $50 million write-down, basically because a client was fraudulent. So that's what that was. I don't know. I think I was thinking like maybe I should take my like we've got a pretty good run here now, right? Where are we at? That's not bad. But I do think overall we should be a little bit higher. Still, like as rates come down and everything. So maybe not. But oh, why did I get rid of it? So that's what that's about. S&P 500 took a bit of a plunge too, but they didn't get to Friday's low. Oil is oof. That's getting ugly in oil. Silver and gold. Wow. Well, gold was very volatile. Look at that. In silver, that's a little concerning. Copper, the lower end of the range, but a little spiky. And the Japanese yen. Okay, so you can see here, it does seem like there's maybe a safe haven bid that is coming out of the market now, and we are seeing the dollar strengthen. Interestingly enough. And what about Bitcoin? Bitcoin is getting crushed. Yeah. So they, you know what, the breach of 1100, not as bad as I thought it would be. Honestly, I will come over to a daily chart. You know, like they're right at the moving average. They might be able to pull this out. Let's see. We'll see. All right. So, okay. That's where we're at. I am definitely not getting the sound. I'm not hearing it in my headphones either. So the first question would be, is it playing in the right place? It is on this computer. Go to the sound mixer. Yeah, that would do it. So the input device needs to be that, and I think it's this one. There we go. Okay. So it just detected that the screen had speakers or something and switched the device. Don't you just hate that about Windows? They do that. Okay, and my camera got bumped a little bit. Let me fix that. Does that fix it? Ah. And you know what? I got so busy with all that I didn't have time to iron my linen shirt. Today's a linen shirt day. Oh well. Well, so let's hop over to Zero Hedge. See if they've got anything more interesting on this. Wow, this is crazy. Goldman's stunned by regional bank meltdown. Oh, and you know what else? Let's pull up today for this bottom portion of the screen. And we will put up a chart of, let's just delete these panes, and we will put up a chart of Zion's Bank. Whew, that's ugly. Wait, what are they on the daily? Because I remember them taking pressure during the Silicon Valley Bank days. Oh, we're not anywhere even close to that. We're not anywhere even close to that. Oh man, I remember in the Silicon Valley Bank days going like, yeah, you totally buy it. I'm stunned that at one point it was a 3xer. Wow. Okay. But that's actually not that bad. A lot of volume on that candle though. Whew. I'll change it back to a 1 minute chart. I tell you what, like I don't bank with them, but I kind of feel like Zion's our bank. You know, like it's Utah's bank. Like if Zion Bank went under, this state would be so screwed. Because so many like small businesses use like all of the, like if you're taking when I would collect tithing for the church, it was always deposited at a Zion Bank. So yeah, that would be a big deal if that happened. Well, let's read the story. There were some very big moves in regional banks on Thursday, sparking Goldman's traders said they were through the roof question levels among the bank's clients. SGS trader Mike Washington writes in the daily market wrap note available to pro subs, regional banks Zion and Wall and Jeff were under pressure on credit provisioning weakness. It was the second worst day for the group since the Silicon Valley Bank implosion in March of 2023. So going back to the prevailing confusion, Washington writes that the number of clients calling the desk and asking what is going on in financials is high, and until answers come in, we are on regional banks' NDFI credit watch. Loans to non-discretionary financial institutions is what NDFI stands for. After Zion booked a $50 million NCO from two credits. Okay, so between two different clients, there was $50 million. They say from fraud. Court filings indicate it is related to two investment funds, unrelated to First Brands and Tricolor, vindicating those who, like us and Jamie Dimon, said there is more than one cockroach. So if it was an investment fund, that still doesn't completely make sense to me. So you know, here's why I think that so many people are having questions. Because when it was happening, I'm like, something's up. Nothing is correlated the way that it should be. And so I immediately was sniffing it out as this must be banking crisis sort of stuff, like liquidity crisis. I wasn't thinking regional banks, but I thought that there must be some, you know, because one of the things that's happening is they've been standing down the reverse repo facility, right? Most of the money is coming out of that. And there's kind of this level where if it gets below that level, people have problems, and that's where the Federal Reserve has to like reverse. And we're getting close to that point. So I thought maybe it had something to do with that. But then it's like, well, but none of this makes sense because, like, why now? Why is it these guys are having a problem? You know, like if it's an investment bank, what is this position that this bank has, or that, you know, what, like, why would they be pressured now? doesn't really make sense to me. Of course, it's fraud, I guess. Maybe this is just when it came to court and they had to announce it. I don't know. Okay. Separately, WAL also plunged as it appears they have a separate lawsuit going on against the borrowers in question, seeking to recover $100 million. Whoa, wait. Are we saying that Wells Fargo and WAL have a lawsuit against the same two borrowers? And they're $100 million? Whoa. Lots more inbounds on NDFI loan exposure now, and Goldman senses that some of the private credit anxiety is shifting towards regionals. I don't think I want to read all of this. Although the bank believes this is an isolated situation, it plans to engage counsel to coordinate an independent review. You know what I should check out? LinkedIn. Dude, last night it was like, hey, you missed some, like at 12 o'clock at night. LinkedIn's like, hey, you missed something. My phone buzzed the notification. At first I thought, hey, maybe it was an alert. But then I was like, well, if my phone is still alerting, which it shouldn't, it's not my problem anymore. So I didn't do anything. And then I woke up and I was like, it was LinkedIn, what? Okay, but jobs. That one I've seen through multiple places, and now it is showing up with the people that are actually hiring is kind of weird. But we want to look for Zions Bank. Zions Bank Corporation. Jobs. They're looking for an engineering manager now, huh? Okay. It's because they had like an SRE roll up, and I, was avoiding it. Why would they be an engineering manager? At first, I'm like, why would they be hiring for this? But this must be one of those things where it's like they have an internal candidate and they have to post it. That's got to be what this is, because there's no way that they don't have somebody over there that can become engineering manager. You know, like that's crazy. That's crazy. But I was just wondering, like, okay, have they been like canceling roles? They put something up today, so maybe not. Let's see here. Zions Bank recently became aware of legal actions initiated by several banks and other lenders against parties that appeared to be affiliated with two borrowers, who will be referred to as the borrowers, under two related commercial and industrial loans extended by the bank's California Bank and Trust Division. The bank's loans are guaranteed by several individuals, quote, the obligators. Upon discovery of this information, the bank commenced an internal review of the borrowers, the obligors, and loans, and the supporting collateral. During this review, the bank identified what it believes to be apparent misrepresentations and contractual defaults by the borrowers and obligors, and other irregularities with respect to the loans and collateral. The bank's subsequent demands and notices of default and acceleration to the borrowers and obligors have gone unanswered. Based on the currently available information, on October 15th, 2025, the bank determined to take a provision for the full approximately 60 million outstanding under the loans and charge 50 million of said amount. The provision and charge-off will be reflected in the bank's earnings and the financial statements for the third quarter of 2025. The bank intends to pursue its legal remedies and has commenced lawsuit in California. Wait a second. Is this Bitcoin bullshit? Is it like we need a $150 million loan to go and buy Bitcoin? And then they said, well, actually, we have collateral. It's Bitcoin. And then they didn't really look into it really heavily to realize that that wasn't really reasonable collateral, because the assets that moved the most, that took it the hardest. I mean, the S&P 500 did move down, but not at first. But what was really going on was the treasuries shot up, the regional banks got slaughtered, and Bitcoin was just absolutely decimated. And given that it is a California bank and Trust is owned by Zion, this totally fits. Ooh. That if that's correct, then even if these banks are okay, because I think that the issue here is like, are there other issues? Are they going to have to take other write-downs? And there's all sorts of systemic risk. That's why, administration officials or whoever it was, people in the government were saying like, we're ready to provide financial assistance for regional banks, right? But if it's a Bitcoin issue, they're still going to have to sell the Bitcoin to pay back. Like they're still going to go and get what they can. I suppose it wouldn't necessarily be an issue right now, because or like they wouldn't have to sell right now, because it would go through court proceedings, and then it would go to a trustee, and then they would sell it over time and things like that. But it would still probably, anybody that was in the know would sell it. Maybe they already did. But I think that, so how should we do this? Let's just make a new one, okay? Let's just make a new chart. We'll put a Bitcoin chart up here. Bitcoin futures. And what do you guys think? 1 minute or 5 minute? Let's do 1 minute charts. 1 minute candlesticks. Okay, we'll do it like that. We'll keep an eye on them. Okay, shortly after, clients presumably did a bunch of digging in court filings, and feedback quickly noted that there's potentially other SMID/regional banks named/exposed to the same borrower in question. Okay. So this is like, what was the name of this guy? Archegios? Do you remember that? This is like the Archegios thing. But what would this guy be in that would be causing pressure on them all of a sudden to discover this? Unless it was Bitcoin. I'd say it's too early to tell. This is totally speculation. It's the only thing that makes sense to me at the moment. what negative could come out of it if it was Bitcoin? The only possibility I can think of is banks just say no more Bitcoin. Yeah. Well, the issue is that Bitcoin has breached some pretty major support levels over here, and we are toying with the 200-day moving average. Now, if you go back and you look at the history, when you get to the 200-day moving average, that's actually like a great place to buy, right? Like right here. Oh, great, right? But you can kind of see it, right? Like, come on. I really don't feel like it would take much to just push them over the edge. And if we had if we had another big down day today, right? Like, let's say that today looked like that. Let's come and make it yellow. Make it yellow. Wait, right? Okay, what if... Oh my gosh, that looks terrible. Let's make it a line. Use the line tool. Okay, there we go. What if today was like that? Right? So you can just kind of see that there's certain players in the Bitcoin ecosystem that start to become vulnerable, right? And if, you know, I really think that a lot of this is based on debt. I really think that a lot of this is based on like Tether printing money and then going and buying Bitcoin with it. and so if people were forced to unwind that, it could get really violent because basically I told you I killed Bitcoin for 69.30, but no one wants to believe me. That must be what it is. Because the thing, but just to go back, the reason why my theory is that it's Bitcoin, and the reason why is I can't think of any reason, any asset that is under pressure right now that would all of the sudden cause the regional banks to look into this particular lender and be like, oh, there's fraud and this whole thing is bad and we're going to have to take a write down and all of that sort of stuff. Makes no sense. And we do know that it was an investment firm. Okay, so like, why would they be looking into an investment firm right now? Doesn't make much sense unless it's Bitcoin, unless they were committing fraud with Bitcoin, right? So that's why that's my theory. It also, okay, so here's another piece of, I wouldn't say like, I wouldn't call it supporting evidence, but just kind of an interesting thought. Do you guys remember when Archegios, and especially when Silicon Valley Bank was happening? And a part of the thing with the Silicon Valley Bank is we weren't really sure what the government was going to do about it, right? Like, it wasn't until a day or two, like at first they were like, oh, I don't know if we think they'll be fine. We think they'll be fine, right? Well, this was under Biden, but, you know, it took a few days for the government officials to come out and be like, hey, we're going to take care of this no matter what. Like, don't worry about it, right? Yesterday, there was people in the, you know, officials, let's just call them officials, because I don't think we would consider these people Trump administration officials per se, but there were officials talking about that they were completely willing to come in and provide any kind of financial assistance necessary. Well, if it was Bitcoin, don't you think that the Trump administration would be really concerned about that and would want to come in and stamp that out as quickly as possible? So here's the thing. We don't know who they are. Everybody's just gonna kind of be like, okay, buy the dip. It's okay. they're going to come in and provide assistance. Like, I think under normal circumstances, Zions Bank is probably a buy. Like, today, chances are that they will have an update. But there's going to be reporters digging around. They're going to be talking to employees. They're going to find out who it was, and then what they were invested in, and what it was fraud. And if that then comes out and it's reported that it was Bitcoin's going to take another hit. Is there more for me to read over here in this story? Other banks is another thing. So we were just saying, there's potentially other banks named / exposed to the same borrower in question. So this really does sound like an Archegios situation. Like it could be that they were invested in a bunch of different names, and including shorts, and that those shorts just got blown out. That could be the case too. Because Archegios wasn't exposed to Bitcoin, right? Let's see here. JEF had its investor day today, and per feedback, some investors didn't feel comfortable with how to risk to First Brand / Point Bonita was handled. Alone, this normally would be modest underperformance for a few idiosyncratic banks. We'd move on. However, the timing is poor, and it's causing sentiment to spiral out of control and leak into the broader market. Okay, so I didn't think about the First Brands thing. First Brands was subprime auto loans, right? Oh man, there was back in March, I did a screener interview for a subprime auto lender, and I didn't know that when I submitted like my resume to it and all of that and did the screener. And I was so turned off by it. They didn't call me back, I'm sure, because like as soon as I figured out what they were doing, I'm like, I don't think I can work for a company like that. Can you imagine if you were working for a subprime auto lender right now? Ugh. With First Brands? Oh, they were auto parts retailer, and Tricolor was the subprime lender. Okay. So that could be another possibility, though. They could be exposed to that same market, and that's why they're coming through. But then where would the fraud be involved, except for maybe that they went and borrowed way more money than they should have been able to, right? So they were doing the, like, is it really like, okay, if this is like an Archegios situation, I think there's going to be hell to pay, because I can't believe that Archegios situation happened, and then somebody else was able to pull it off, that nobody went and was like, oh, we should go and double check to make sure that people aren't borrowing from and using the same collateral with a bunch of different banks. That is, either way, I don't know if this is going to affect markets beyond today, but is definitely going to be a saga that's going to be interesting to watch, because like, how did this happen? What is going on? Let's see here. Recall heading into earnings that the market got itself nervous on both consumer credit and private credit. This, in our view, was mostly noise, but client worry was real, and just the other day, Jamie Dimon warned of more, quote, cockroaches. So, following Tricolor / First Brands, two other credits where banks had alleged potential fraud, as well as general anxiety on consumer credit, wrote about what was going on here at the time. The question isn't, is this specific credit a contagion risk? Though we have gotten some of these questions from generalists, it's mostly been, how is this getting through underwriting? Yeah, the question I was just asking. 2, why have 3 unrelated potential frauds been discovered in the past month and a half? This is a very important you know what? Like, I feel so smart right there. That I understand these things enough to ask all of those questions before the article did. But then the article basically said like the exact same stuff, but in more professional language, because they actually know what they're talking about. Let's see here. Are underwriting standards at smaller banks getting loosened to juice loan growth? I don't know. I don't think that they're giving out a whole lot of loans right now is the problem. It's just not. The startup world is hurting. The last part is also unsettling to people as it fits their broader narrative. These loans are mostly coming from NDFI loans, which are loans to non-depository financial institutions and include a lot of different things. This morning's note had UBS's slide that showed the types of stuff that are in it. These loans have increasingly become a source of loan growth for regional banks. Attached a chart of Ryan Nash's second quarter 25 handbook below, and are generally 50% of loans with variation. But clients are also emphasizing that not all NDFI loans are the same. Additionally, not all NDFI underwriters are the same. You see this given great variation in bank performance today. Larger banks are outperforming mid/regional banks by 300 basis points, in some cases up to 1,000 basis points. Yes, because these companies, they like look through the financials and like model it and are able to see like how it should affect the price of that bank. Within NDFI, most of the focus incremental in conversations is on the private credit and to a lesser degree consumer credit intermediaries. With that said, it seems like we are in a discovery phase as no one seems to know what is going on. These moves in financials are large. Zion's loss, it disclosed, was 5% of its earnings, and the stock is down 13% as of send a couple of minutes before close. Regionals are overall down 7%. Money centers are down 3.9%. JEF 10.6%. Anything tied to credit, both across consumer and the alts, is trading heavy. Conventional defensives like the card networks are down 2 to 3%, and even the exchanges can't catch a bid. Additionally, pricing related pressure in insurance is not helping financial investors, and the number one perceived takeout regional bank dropped 9.4% yesterday as it messaged to the market it was interested in buying. You can see the pain, and you can almost hear the sound of money leaving financials. Overall, this seems a bit crazy after net incremental disclosure around one borrower, but at the same end of the day, there's been a notable shift in tone in our conversations where the prevailing view now seems like something is going on. Yes. We still have a lot of regional banks to go through earnings and expect this to remain a huge focus in calls and disclosure, refreshing some charts from Nash's handbook, again on NDFI loans and regionals. There was so much interesting information in that, but it just gives more questions. Who is it? I really hope by the end of today we know who it is. Then it'll get really interesting, right? It did give us a couple of ideas, right? So we can apply. Hold on. I'll just do it like this. Who is going under? So let's cite a few things that we know. Regional banks. Zion. And what was the other bank? WAL and WAL are exposed total of 150 million. Can we maybe we'll just do it like that. Bitcoin fell at the same time. Okay. But we also know subprime auto loans having issues. So I think like it could be. Oh, and we also know we know that it is investment firm. Okay. So it could be theories. Could be Bitcoin. Could be a subprime auto lender. There was a third one in there, wasn't there? It could be hedge fund shorts, perhaps. Right? Can't save with no pass. So let's just keep that in mind as we dig around some more. And hey, we got the whole weekend. Oh, they had, I didn't realize, I did see some stuff from the New York City debate yesterday and realized that Silwa was there too. Initial jobless claims declined last week according to Goldman's model. Bond market shows tail risks are rising. John Bolton indicted yesterday. Novo shares drop after Trump promises much lower Ozempic prices? Really? I don't know. My wife has been getting it from some local compounder, and it's been fine. I don't know. It sounded dangerous to me, but like it's been fine, and I guess maybe it's not as bad as I think. But it would be nice if it was cheaper. But wasn't Weight Watchers being like that they were going to make it cheap for everybody? Whatever happened with that? I feel like it's been long enough that should have happened by now. Well, while we've been yapping, Bitcoin does continue to move down through this channel. And the treasuries have been pretty quiet. Pretty quiet. Although, slightly to the buy. Oh yeah, I forgot that we need to make our change. So I keep going into, like, sometimes we have these situations where it seems like the market order imbalance is to the buy side, but then we're moving down pretty consistently. And it's like, what's going on here? Like, how can it actually be net buy? And I think what is actually happening is there is some volume that will seemingly come in between the bid and the ask, and then it doesn't know how to categorize it, and that volume is just being discarded in my model. So I made a change so that we can see what percent of the volume in the rolling window is like that. And then we can have the algorithm do different things based on the amount of uncategorized volume. So we can mess with that. I honestly don't feel like messing with it, but I don't know. Think about that for a second. Why I don't want to, but so let's just come over here. Novo. What is their Novo Nordisk Class AB? Which ones do I want? Or let's do Nordisk. I think it's this one. Oh yeah, they got hammered. And they've been hurting for a while. Weight Watchers. They have a stock, right? WW International. Huh. Huh. They're actually doing okay yesterday, though. Actually, if not doing well yesterday. I thought they delisted. Maybe WW International isn't what I think. I don't know. WW International, formerly Weight Watchers International. I think, yeah, I think we're okay. Anyways. Haven't negotiated those yet. Options on bonds. So this is from Simon White, Bloomberg macro strategist. Options on bonds show that the market is pricing in a higher chance of a large move. Last week was rude reminder that markets are on fragile foundations as the renewed trade conflict between the US and China triggered a slump in asset prices. Yields are lower, but under the surface, the market is pricing in a greater chance of either a big rise or fall in bond prices. Options prices give the whole probability distribution for an asset, looking at them for the TLT ETF of longer-term treasuries, both far out of the money put skew and call skew, with a 3-month expiry, have been rising. Oh man, for some reason, all of a sudden, I like the blood shifted in my head, and I'm hear the blood rushing into my ear. That's weird. This shows the market is applying a higher likelihood of a big move in bond prices either way. That corresponds with the steady fall in bond volatility in the recent months. Even in the face of soaring equity volatility, such a persistent decline is likely reflective of Treasury policies to reduce volatility through buybacks and a preference for funding using bills. However, volatility repression rarely ends well, as compared risk is liable to rebound violently the more it is constrained. The fall in the put-call ratio for the 10-year Treasury futures is being driven by a rise in the open interest of calls, showing the market favors a move lower in yields rather than higher. Yes, I think that like the risk of recession is rising. I honestly, like, when I look at this market, and I don't feel like I say this on stream as much because I don't know, like I'm afraid to. It's just everything that I see looks like a recession, except for the numbers. You know, like everything that I can see myself, like hiring, the types of companies that are doing well and aren't doing well, the way that people are doing and people's behavior and all of that sort of stuff. It looks like a recession. And now we're getting like credit contagion sort of issues. That again, that's like a recession. But then you look at GDP. GDP looks great. Okay, maybe GDP is a bad example because of the whole imports thing, right? You look at unemployment. Unemployment's not that bad. Except for that hiring is like dismal. So I just can't seem to square it all away. Everything looks like a recession, but then the data is not saying it's a recession. And I keep thinking that, like, all of a sudden one day we're going to get one data point that then everybody says, oh, actually we are in a recession, and they'll start selling. And then when they start selling, then all of the ghosts will come out. And then we'll see that actually, yes, that's very much what was going Even the rise in put skew then is the market also factoring in a potentially large move higher in yields, even if the path there might be via lower yields. Either way, bond price, option prices, and the relentless ascent of gold are signaling tail risks in the market are rising. Except for that gold kind of took a hit yesterday too. Wow. What's that? Ooh, there's a... Okay, there was an interesting uptick there. Didn't necessarily see a huge drop in Zion, but we're really close to the open. So... let's do this. Let's put that there like that, that there like that. And then you will switch over to the and I guess I'll turn the robot on at this point. so there's another uptick, huh? Yeah. Interesting. I didn't like that. Huh. I think we got some issues. Yeah. Index was outside the bounds of the array. Ah. Is it because I added columns? Adding columns breaks it? No, that can't be right. Oh, we're just gonna have to fix that later. Keep this on ES open, because they are starting, and it looks like Zion's Bank is starting out on the down foot. I keep seeing this picture on Reddit that is like the perfect the description of the conspiracy theory left. Trump sucks. He wasn't shot. He didn't win. He's on the list. That's the reality those people are living right now. That's what they think. Amir, how's it going? Is that update on the site? No, it's not. Oh, man, I totally missed your comments there. Dude, I'm sorry. But it looks like we gotta fix it. It's still some more. Probably gonna have to pull out the debugger to fix that one. Which maybe pull out? I don't know. We'll stream till 9 and then I will get the boys up, and I know. Yesterday they let me, like all morning we were in the office and they were just watching their iPads in the office, but I couldn't really couldn't really do deep work with both of them. Maybe if it was just Ethan and he was just watching his iPad. If he plays a game, oh my gosh. I am so flippin' sick of mobile ads. I wish I could find some games that didn't have ads and were good for 3 to 5 year old kids, because every game that he wants to play, it's just ads pop. Like, you do 2 actions. It is the thing that's crazy to me is they'll do 2 actions in the game and then the ad will pop up, and the ads are always like, how to close them is always like really complicated, like multiple clicks and you have to like find the little icon and it's really hard to see, and like so then he comes to me. They make it intentionally as annoying as possible so that the kids will click on them probably. And you would think that the kid would be like, well, this sucks. I'm bored of this game. But it almost feels like it makes it more engaging to him. I hate it. So as long as he's not playing the game, if we did just put him on YouTube, you probably would leave me alone. But no, I think today I will stay. Well, I think I will sit in here because the chair is better. That couch, you sit on the couch too long, it's bad for you. But I'll probably do some videos, study a little bit. Okay, so that's coming back down, and the S&P 500 is turning to the upside. And Zion's Bank is maybe possibly stabilized. Let's see. Do you guys think that Ma'am Donnie in New York will win? What's the current polling show? Let's see. Does Real Clear Politics have a thing about it? Maybe polls. Polling, polls. Favorability. Well, there's the New York Times has a page for it. They do have a Real Clear Politics page. I just had to search for it from just had to search for it on Google. Okay, so the average right now is 18 plus 18. But if you add them together, it's not going to show me a graph. That sucks. So Kumo plus Silva. $41. He wins. He might win. So on last night, he was saying that they were going to have free buses. And I was like, oh, it's not that expensive. We just, like, you guys gave this guy and this guy more. Man. You know, the issue, one of the issues here with this is, like, one, you're talking about really complex stuff, right? Like, should you invest in this versus this? Like, what will be the benefit of this versus this and this? Like, it's really complicated stuff. There's no objectively right answer to it, right? But there are some things you can invest in that will yield certain returns, and then there's other things that the returns are maybe a little bit like less direct, right? So like there's a benefit to putting money into managing homelessness, that there is a real cost to society from that, and so you actually save more money by, you know, taking care of it than you do not. Okay, but it's like you don't necessarily directly see that because it's kind of like a secondary, you know, it's like a complicated secondary effect. Versus if you give a tax break to a billionaire and then they use that to create jobs, it's like a little bit different of a thing, right? And then there are some things that are just like straight drains, you know? So it's kind of hard to say, you know, but all you got to do as a politician is just say, oh, I'm going to do more services for people like you, and that people just eat it up because, you know, they don't even know the difference, let alone to like understand how complicated it is as to like whether it actually is a good decision or not. Except for that, we do kind of know that you go too far down that path and it tends to be a disaster. But Reddit is just like eating this guy up, and everywhere else that I see, they're like, this guy's a communist. Like, it's probably not a communist, but it does seem like he is a socialist, or what? A democratic socialist. That's what I was looking for. But did he do well in the debate? That's the other question. Let's see here. Let's go to my conservative logs and see if they have well, nothing up yet. It's probably too early. I guess I could go to... Actually not seeing that much on social media about that. I would think that there would be more about it. Maybe Ma'am Donnie is more likely to win than I realize, and everybody has just accepted it. and I'm just coming to the, oh wait, what? What? Is that bad? I bet you there'd be more analysis later. Oh, wow. In the latest poll showed on the New York Times poll, October 10th to the 14th, Mamdani already has 52% anyways. So even if the two combine, they're not going to beat him. That's no good. What's this? The Mamdani exodus, faced with rising anti-Semitism and a radical would-be mayor, New York's Jewish artists confront a once unthinkable question. Is it time to flee? Hey, you guys could come to Utah. We'll have you. Mormons love the Jews. We love Jews. You know what? It's so weird. I shouldn't be talking like that. I probably shouldn't be talking like that. I apologize. But it's just like there's this whole thing, like with this shooting that happened in Minnesota or wherever it was a couple of weeks ago. Man, that one sure died down quick. You know, because the whole thing was like, oh, you know, Christians are under attack. Christians are under attack when Charlie Kirk was killed. And then, you know, there was a shooting at a church. Everybody was all bothered. And then it was like, oh, actually, it was just the Mormons. It wasn't actually Christians. Like, it was painful to see the Christian community, like, how callous they are. That all when it's just Mormons. But, like, I've always known it. Like, the evangelicals hate Mormons. Like, you know, you'd think that, like, well, okay, there are differences between Mormons and Christians. So, like, are Mormons actually Christians? Well, Mormons think that we're Christians, but like there is a difference. But why do they care to highlight, like, especially after an atrocity like that? Why do they care to highlight that difference? I'll tell you why. It's because they hate Mormons more than probably anybody else. Seriously. And I think that that Jews kind of feel that too. That there's a lot of people in the Christian world that talk positively about Judaism and Israel and stuff, but then when push comes to shove, they're going to abandon them because ultimately they think they're not Christians, though. I'm going to bet, though, that most of them don't move to Utah. They'll probably move. You know where they'll probably move to is Florida. Hey, that would be good for you, Uzi. There'd be lots of new people to clean their houses. That'd be a good demographic shift for you. He's probably not here anymore. He probably left. New York has fallen. It's over. I'm leaving. Real New Yorkers stay and fight. You can't just pick up and go. It's only going to get worse, not better. I don't need this negativity. Things are bad enough already. Thus went the discussion in my WhatsApp group. One recent weekend after October 7th, I was added to a group chat of Jewish artists from around the world whose communities and industries were being overtaken by anti-Semitic hate. As creative fields quickly became hotspots for demonizing Israel and demanding ideological conformity, this group became a rare place to vent, exchange ideas, collaborate, and sometimes to argue. That weekend's debate splintered the group in a way I'd never seen before. The topic: is New York still good for the Jews, or is it time to flee? Several admitted they no longer felt safe. Some had already left town. Others were making plans. They spoke of losing jobs, being disinvited from friends' birthdays, and even being assaulted at a party for wearing a Jewish star necklace. To them, New York had already fallen. Wow. I had no clue that it was already that bad for them. That all these people are saying they're losing jobs, and wow, okay. On the other side were those whose connection to the city runs stubbornly deep. For them, abandoning the refuge their ancestors found here was unthinkable. As emotions flared, thoughtful debate gave way to arguments about who counts as a real New Yorker and whether leaving was prescient or paranoid. As I observed the back and forth, I couldn't shake one thought. Were these the same conversations our grandparents and great-grandparents had in Europe during the pogroms in 1930s Germany as fascism rose? Those who left Berlin before the Nazis took power must have seemed alarmist to their friends and family who looked around at a progressive city where Jews were prominent in film, theater, music, science, business, such as they are in New York City today. I always wished to be a fly on the wall to witness those conversations. Now, amid a new wave of normalized anti-Semitism in a mayoral election that may be the tipping point, that wish was tragically coming true. The arguments in the chat left me wondering how we reached this point. These debates weren't abstract. They played out in the lives of people I knew. For many, the rupture began on October 7th itself. Jacob, a Brooklyn-born music video and film director, couldn't believe what he saw from his own community as news of Hamas's massacre came in. On the day of the attacks, people I considered friends were posting Palestinian flags, paraglider emojis, and saying, by any means necessary. These were people I had real relationships with. That's so like it's really crazy to me that anybody in the United States, and especially anybody in New York, would show support for what happened on October 7th. But I think part of it is maybe the left did a pretty good job propagandizing things and hiding the extent of the atrocities. Because I remember there being these whole arguments about, like, oh, nobody was actually raped and there wasn't. No, it was like murder. It was horrific. Remember when they brought the You know, like, because things are winding down and hostages were released, but none of the women and children survived. None of the women or children survived. Horrific. And there are people that don't want to accept that it happened or try and make excuses for it. And in the face of the group of people that are being assaulted here. That's so bonkers. By any means necessary. Yeah. Basically, they're saying that terrorism is acceptable in order to free Palestine. Is what they think. Let's see here. Ironically, there's a huge divide between rich and poor, including rich and poor Jews. The editor to the New York Times, for instance, Sulzberger, could do a lot to use his influence to help. As long as there's a commitment to actually live the beneficial tenets of the faith, I don't mind Judaism, Mormons, etc. Yeah, but are they Christians? Anyways. You can log off Twitter, but then you walk outside and it's in your face anyways. Stickers glorifying Hamas, pro-terror rallies in the park, people in kefias everywhere. Cinematographer Leia Jospi had a similar experience. One of my friends tweeted a picture of Hamas breaking down the border fence and was like, "This is the most beautiful photo I've ever seen in my life." The experience of seeing friends celebrate what they were mourning was destabilizing. I'm in a field where I was the only one speaking out against Hamas, Jacob says. It was very lonely. Painter Isaac Pfeiffer felt the same shock. When he called out those who were celebrating the attacks, he was instantly vilified. I immediately was being called a Nazi by people who I thought were my friends. A lot of people unfollowed and blocked me. I had this immediate sense that if I'd been in Israel that day, some of them would have been cheering on my murder or kidnapping. The alienation wasn't confined to the internet. Jospi, a fixture in the downtown Manhattan Times Square scene, faced outright bullying from her community after she defied the anti-Israel orthodoxy. At parties, these girls would stand in a circle and point and laugh at me, trying to make me feel physically uncomfortable. At one party, things escalated. A girl and I were smoking in the bathroom, and she saw my Star of David necklace. She went, "Ew, are you Jewish?" I said, yeah, and she goes, "Ow, I fucking hate Jews." The confrontation turned into an argument about Zionism that ended with Jospi being shoved to the ground. Jospi didn't back down from publicly defending Israel, and soon she was being uninvited from birthdays and holiday parties she had always attended. Her defiance of the groupthink around her soon carried professional consequences too. I was at a bar one night with a director I really like, and he told me, "Because of your views on the war, no one wants to work with you. We make fun of you in group chats. Everyone thinks you're insane." That's so awful. Pfeiffer, too, found his career collapsing. He had built a following with viral paintings of pop culture and political celebrities, but once it was clear that he didn't share his fans' rabid hatred for Israel, they abandoned him. All of a sudden, this art they loved so much sucked. An informal blacklist, and rumor has it, even a formal one, emerged. Supporting Israel in any way became the one stance that could destroy your reputation in New York's creative world. How can this be happening in New York of all places? For both Pfeiffer and Jacob, the final blow was the Democratic primary victory of Zohran Mamdani, the politician who blamed Israel for October 7th as atrocities were still unfolding. When I saw Mamdani win, it was really difficult, said Jacob. I spent time in Paris growing up and experienced hardcore anti-Semitism there, so I know what it looks like outside America. To see this kind of hatred reach the one place that in my mind was safe from it is too much to bear. It breaks my heart. Jacob now lives in Europe with Israeli filmmaker Sarah, whom he met through a group chat and recently married. For her, the pattern New York is following is less surprising. It always has to happen, and in the places where it didn't happen yet, it will. It never happened in New York, so naturally, it's time. Oh, that's so awful. To feel like there's no, it's always going to happen anywhere. For Pfeiffer, Mamdani's victory was the culmination of a situation that had become untenable for him. You can log off Twitter, but then you walk outside and it's in your face anyways. Stickers glorifying Hamas, pro-terror rallies in the park, people in keffiyehs everywhere. It was inescapable. Pfeiffer has returned to his hometown of Albuquerque, New Mexico. After building a life and career that depended on a community he no longer has, he now finds it difficult to paint at all. Everything that's happened in the past 2 years is tied up with my art practice. I think I'm still in mourning. Once I can paint again for myself, maybe I'll start healing. He doesn't take for granted what it's like to be away from the hate-filled streets of New York. I'm very much enjoying a place where I can take a walk, not be surrounded by people who actively support terrorists who would rape and murder and kidnap me and my loved ones. This is a long story. You want me to keep reading it? Josby, meanwhile, feels stuck. My grandparents came here a long time ago. My dad was raised here. I thought I'd always live here, but this doesn't feel like my city anymore. I can't get jobs the way I used to. I can't hit up friends to hang out anymore. I'm too broke to move because I can't get work anymore. I feel trapped in my apartment. Still, she dreams of moving to the one place her identity won't make her a target. There's this feeling of belonging that seems to only exist in Israel. I'm not going to be hated because I'm wearing a Star of David necklace there. Yeah, if they don't go to Florida, they go to Israel. Although I do have to say, some of these feelings are feelings that everybody is feeling regardless of their demographics. Like, American culture has just become too fractured, and the job market is really terrible right now too. You're shocked that that's happening? Yes, because it's like 30% or like, I think the majority of white people in New York are Jewish. Like, it's a huge, it's not the majority, but it's not a small demographic. Like, how can you, man, because anybody that's in New York and they're posting that has to know that they have a Jewish friend that will see that, and how that their Jewish friend will see that, and they still post it. It's bonkers to me. Not everyone in the group chat is ready to give up on New York. One member, who asked to be referred to as Judith, rejects the idea outright. Leaving New York is out of fear is short-sighted. When you have a career, family, roots here, abandoning it all isn't a solution. The same issues exist in every major city. Escaping it is unrealistic. For Judith and others, it's about principle. Why should Jews be forced out after generations of sacrifice to make a life here? But history is rarely fair, and the story isn't new. In 1933, German Jewish author I'm not even going to try and pronounce that. Frochwanger wrote The Oppermans, a novel about an assimilated Jewish family in Berlin. As anti-Semitism grows around them, they find themselves slowly losing everything as a new ideology grips their friends, clients, colleagues, and teachers. Each time they assume it's a passing storm, as we, the readers, know it wasn't. The Holocaust that followed could never have been predicted at the time of the book's writing, but in hindsight, all the signs were there. Are American Jews the Oppermans of today? Have we placed too much faith in a system untested by this level of history hatred? Will future generations look back and ask how we could have possibly missed the red flags? A mayoral candidate who wouldn't condemn globalize the Intifada, the violent takeover of Columbia University's campus, Zionists get out, chanted on the subway, people tucking their stars of David under their shirts like Tevia's family at the end of Fiddler on the Roof. Perhaps it's time to pack up and leave our current Anatevka. Is Israel, even under constant threat, the last refuge for Jews on earth? Well, I don't think that there's going to be like a Holocaust of Jews in New York or anything like that. It's just like, it's not as nice as it was, unfortunately, right? The story's conclusion is still unwritten. The question isn't only whether New York has fallen, it's whether Jews and those who stand with them can turn the tide. Leaving is one option, and perhaps a very reasonable one, but so is fighting for a city that has always been an example of resilience and hope. Perhaps the harder path is refusing to surrender New York to those who would see it emptied of Jewish life. You know, I saw this video the other day on TikTok from somebody in Germany, and she was also saying that, like, we're leaving, like that things in Germany have gotten too bad, it's irreversible, and some of us are already leaving, and more people will continue to leave. Like, yeah, I know there's lots of problems in Europe with the Muslim migrants and all that sort of thing, but I hadn't yet seen people like fleeing. You know what I mean? And if that picks up steam, that's gonna be a wild thing to watch. Because where are they gonna go? Well, I guess they could move to Eastern Europe as part of it. I think a lot of people in Germany will probably move to Eastern Europe. That or come to the United States. I don't know. It does feel like that kind of tide is shifting in the United States, but then you look at places like New York and it's not. So there's some interesting questions, particularly as it comes to demographics there. That was a very interesting story. All that was me trying to search for information about what people thought of the debate, but it's 8 o'clock. Well, so let's see if this next hour brings us something. Well, so far, Zions Bank, it was selling on the open, and they're pushing new highs from the overnight session, but not quite yet. And Bitcoin also seems to have. So look at this. Like, where did we stop here? 716. Which is about when, well, okay, now that's actually interesting. 740. So there does appear to be maybe some correlation between Zions Bank and Bitcoin, but they're actually like the opposite direction. The treasuries are on the down foot. Like it really is starting to look like that they're gonna erase everything from yesterday. Meta is working on a data center in Louisiana that would be twice the size of its Ohio data center. The floor space will be about half the size of Lower Manhattan. At peak power, Hyperion will consume about half as much electricity as the entire city of New York. Wow. You want the levels for the treasuries? Well, yeah, I guess we probably should be thinking about the downside levels, huh? I bet my algorithm would have taken a short somewhere through all of that, although I don't know if it would have gotten a good price. I guess with the way that we had it set up, it could have gotten 2 ticks. Probably could have done okay. Oh, hey, I can use the new job search. AI-powered search. Ah, that's not too bad, actually. Mm-hmm. Wow, this job wants a DevOps engineer for 50,000 a year. Good luck with that. Let's see here. Oh, you sent me the picture. 13.5, 13 next downside target ZB is a 3 everyone, but the 2-year kissing their weekly VWAPs too. Oh, 13.5. Okay. So we're not quite there in the treasuries, huh? It sure is going slow, but it looks like the regional banks are pulling it out. Guess maybe we zoom it out a little bit like that. If it were a typical day, I would take a swat at the reversion play as close to 13, 13.5 as I could, but it's a bit, yeah. Well, I mean, there's completely the possibility that, you know, there's another blow up and we go higher. Not to mention that Trump could say something about the trade war. It's been a couple of days since they've talked about that. So they might come in and say things on that. But, you know, without anything else coming in, I think you're right. Like that 13.5 probably won't be able to hold. They're going to revert the whole move from yesterday. And if not today, then tomorrow. If ZN gets the 13.5, it'll be just enough room for ZT to kiss its weekly VWAP. Okay. I mean, I think it's interesting, but I'm really skeptical about the weekly VWAP number meaning anything. Of course, I am skeptical about any technical number, but there are some that do matter. I think those volatility ranges, those matter. In fact, I've always kind of been like, well, like daily highs and lows, weekly highs and lows, like matter. But I kind of think that those volatility ranges matter more than that. There she goes. Well, there's a tick down at least. Say there's a good amount of volume on that too. And it seems to be driven by the S&P 500 rallying, starting to rally harder at least. Ooh, I don't know though. Hold on. So let's come in here and check SPOO's gamma exposure. We're getting awfully close to the expiration tomorrow. What? Error? It won't show me. I think that we were in a range though. I don't know where it is. I think they might be okay with going beyond 6,700. Watch, I bet you that there's going to be when it passes through it, that it's going to be spectacular. Like, who's to say if it holds it, reverses, continues, whatever, but I bet you that there's going to be a sweep through there and a lot of volume. They always like to do crazy things there. And let's recenter these. Say there was big volume in ZT there. Oh, I minimize that. Where is that? ZT. Well, yeah, there was that 136. Kind of annoying because this, like, ZN is priced in halves. ZT, or sorry, ZF is priced in quarters. So this is priced in eighths. But like the way that the numbers work don't. You know, over here I can kind of tell. It's like, yeah, that makes sense. But then I get over here and it's like, really, I think it should say 13 and 6/8 or whatever it is, right? Well, I am showing on the inventory cost basis that we're bumping up against the line there. So I still think that they're going to push lower, but they might pause here for a little bit, right? They might build a little bit of a distribution before the 30-year decides to take another dip. Also, we are seeing some steepening here still. So that, I think, also kind of supports that ZB could go lower. So I'm browsing LinkedIn here, and David Solomon tweeting a story. Goldman Sachs announces acquisition of Industry Ventures. And I find it so weird that some of the biggest corporations have the most generic, boring names that are always like, wait, how did they get that name? Like Jean-Philippe's fund is Capital Fund Management. That wasn't taken? What? It's so crazy. How did they do that? Like I need to just call my trading GUI Retail Trading Systems. And right? Is that the most generic name I could like the most generic corporate name I could possibly come up with for a trading platform? No, Trading Technologies is. That would be shorter. It's just like, and there seems to be some absorption there at 14, doesn't there? I'm noticing though Zion's Bank is rolling back over. And Bitcoin pointing down. Oh, I didn't see these comments the other day. I wouldn't say it's backed off, but yeah, she's not ready. Like on a mean reversion like this, right? They're not gonna do it in one fell swoop. It's not gonna be like trend day down sort of a thing, right? It's they're gonna come to every spot where somebody thinks they can justify taking the reversal or whatever, and then after everybody thinks, oh well, that's all they're like they get bored of it, and then it will fall apart, right? Yeah, I don't know if it's closing shorts either. It's just there's definitely some absorption there at 14, which honestly, we almost always see at that price level, right? Oh, yeah, I was like not paying attention. They did touch 13. So let's see here. I think that in support of like it stopping is just that we should expect to see a decent amount of distribution here, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that it'll come back up very much or when it would go lower, just that it probably pauses a little bit. But I think the thing that we got going on that supports the lower is that the yield curve appears to be steepening through this. So somebody might be placing a steepener on and they're not done yet. Doesn't look like they're done yet, at least. So I would expect to continue seeing some selling over here in ZB. But if it goes, probably ZB is going to be the one that's going to pull us down, right? Alright, so there's another 5K at 13.5. While Zion was kind of pointing it down, it looks like not quite so dire now. Oops. It looks kind of like ZV wants to keep the man down. Yeah. Kind of one of my questions that I have here, though, is they're clearly selling the side of the curve. And the 10-year is not moving as fast. But I'm not exactly seeing buying on this side. Maybe he's the one that's buying there. In ZN, right? I was browsing Reddit and I came across this video of a guy holding a flight attendant at knife point, and it looks like they convince him to take a different hostage that's not a woman. And then that different hostage, like straight up, pulls the knife out of his hand. And I'm sitting here like, wait, how is that? How did he get through security with a knife? No, it's not in the United States. Thing. Guy just straight up reaches over and pulls the knife out of his hand. He grabbed it by the blade. That's so funny. That's so crazy. So whoop, the guy didn't even really have a good grip on it. and then they take it down. This though, she is. Oh man, she is. She is not having a fun time. I convinced him to let her go. Well, now why is skewing the other way? Is the curve reverting? I know it still, it feels to me like there's pretty strong selling. It's being met. They're not like, the sellers aren't like in a huge hurry. Could keep going. They're back at 13. I suppose if they breached through 13 with only 2,000 contracts trading, then it would be like, whoa, wait, hold on. Never mind. It was a big stack when they ticked up. Right up to 5,000 at 13. And they took out 3K on the offer too. I guess not. I guess they're not just gonna pull it and actually, the amount of volume trading through here too, it seems to be slowing down a little bit. Yeah. Like the cumulative delta in this spot has actually been pretty flat. Although I wish that my indicator wasn't screwed up, because, well, let's try. Hit a new window. Oh, that's not what we wanted. We want this one. Duplicate a new window. I wonder if the right click on my mouse is going out. Indicators. Doesn't like it. Index outside the bounds of the way. No, I think I can find that without debugging. I bet you I can find that without. So funny how ZN and ZF both hit the target, like at the same spot too. Oh, it's up already up 2 ticks. Wow. Oh, there's actually, oh, that's weird. There's some real volume behind that too. Maybe ZB gave up. No, something else is going on, you see. That is not just like, oh, they absorbed and yet no, like it is actively being pushed by a huge aggressive buy. Okay, well, so like that immediately has me back to like, oh, is there some risk contagion sort of a thing coming on now, perhaps? But Zion's Bank seems fine. And let's see here, Bitcoin. Well, Bitcoin doesn't necessarily look very hot. Ooh, okay, I have an idea. What if I say on this thing, do it? No? They're calling on bar 1. Oh, there's a bug right there. Well, not a bug, but just a formatting error. Okay, well, the buy-in pulse appears to have subsided. Huh. Is it neat yet or no? I don't know what I would define as neat. I guess I would say like I don't think I ever doubted that a volatility projection can be is something that the instruments react to. And I would definitely say that it's way more precise and reacts much more strongly than I would have expected it to, right? But I'm not sure like how effectively I can trade it, you know? Like, I definitely see this thing where it's like it's playing out and like it's definitely like, okay, it came to the right spot and everything. But like whether it actually reverses off of it and then also like if it does reverse, like the manner in which it does it and everything, it kind of doesn't necessarily always play out. You know, like there's always some key detail about how it plays out that I'm wrong about. Like on this one, what was the case in this one? So we were both like, well, this might be a spot where it pauses or reverses a little bit. You want to be nervous about catching it there because they're probably going to mean revert all day. But they did bounce and much more aggressively than I would have expected. So I think the plan there should have been to buy 13.5, right? I think the play would have been to take 13 and tried to get 3 or 4 ticks on it, but I guess the best he could have gotten was 15. 1, 2, 3. You'd target 19? Really? Why 19? Oh wait, is that based on your based on the volatility? Based on like the ATR or whatever? No, because it's a session open. Guess I don't follow. Why would you think that it will come all the way back up to the open instead of like coming back to the VWAP and then continuing to trend down? Okay. Like, so I guess the other thing that I would say about it, because like, is it neat? I mean, it is neat. It is neat. I think that I could probably write a robot that scrapes that number and just blindly trades the reverse of that level every time. And I bet you that it would make money most of the time. And I bet you that there would be periods where it would do really well, in fact. And then it would probably like all fall apart in one day, right? Like it seems to have that kind of behavior. And one of the issues that I'm having with it is I keep thinking about that. I'm like, oh, well, that would be perfect for Johnny. Except for that it wouldn't, because you can't trade the prop firms with treasuries. If the S&P 500 held to them as tightly as the treasuries did, then it would be like, let's go. I try to avoid the blindly trade levels and think more along the lines of any trade I have to take has to be within these levels. Whoa. So you're saying if you were going to take a trade today, it would have had to have been around the 13.5 or whatever the top line one is? But I mean, 90% of the time, it is going to be a reversal there at that point, right? Because I guess that's the other thing is with the way that Seth himself likes to trade, I would very much prefer to have been short at 19 and then taken it off at 13.5, right? And it's just, what could I have known when this all started that we should have taken a short at 19? But every once in a while, it gives it to us, right? But I also, when did we start doing this? It's been more than a month or two, right? Because volatility in the treasuries is just really, really low. We have 2 months. I was looking the other day, and there was one place that it seemed like maybe with the demo data that I could get it. Like the historical. Because I know how they're calculating that number. So once I figured out what their volatility number actually meant, that really changed my view of a few things. So what it's doing is it's looking at the money one. It's looking at the money options and then saying, okay, like what is, how much are they asking for and how much volatility does that imply as a percent of the value of it. That's how they're getting that number. So no, not just, yeah, well, for the monthly contract, but the key thing is at the money contract, right? Because the volatility index, we did this before with a volatility index, right? And a volatility index is kind of like this super complicated calculation based on all of the options being traded on the exchange and things like that. And I think to some extent the VIX is kind of intended to be more of like an intraday kind of a measure, right? And so that's why I think that this percentage number that you get seems to be a better level to look at. Because that's the number that like the options market makers for people that are taking on options positions that day are expecting. Ergo, when you get to that level, the options market makers are doing stuff. And there's like volume traded at those levels. That's why I think it matters. So like now, not only do we, like we would expect volatility projections and everything to work, but when you understand that it has to do with those that particular at the money options, it puts it a little bit in a different perspective. Also does kind of tell you something else for the treasuries, I think. So here's a wild theory for you. If the expected volatility is more than half a handle, or let's say is more than a full handle, then this is probably not going to work very well. Because right now, it's like all of the options market maker guys are doing it based on this 16, right? And ergo, they're going to react when it gets to whatever their level was. But if we've had a day where we've been at 16 and we've been at 113 even, which is a lot of volatility, right? Those are crazy times when it's trading that much. But then at that point, you know, you could have a lot of positions based on this 16 and a lot of positions based on this zeros. And then the flow wouldn't be as strong. You get what I mean? Or perhaps that could explain why it seems to work so well in the treasuries and not in the S&P 500. Because in the S&P 500, you've got strike prices at more prices within the daily range. Whereas in ZN right now, we are only within a single strike price for the day. See what I'm saying? That's very interesting. But I suppose the use of it here, you know, another thing is interesting about it is the timing, like when we're doing it, is kind of good and kind of not. You know, like volatility in treasuries has been really, really low, but there is a lot of headline risk out there too. So I'm a little bit weary about doing like the mean reversion play sort of a thing, just because it's like, you know, if we were on the upside, especially, I'd be really nervous about selling it short because, you know, Donald Trump just says anything and it's boom, right? This is going to go right through you. But if this was like, I think my worst trading that I ever had was like when we started, like just after we started the stream in like 2017-ish, right? That was a really, really low volatility range too. And that did not have the same degree of headline risk. So then I think that the strategy would have worked really, really well in that market, right? And so that's a really good tool to have that might have prevented us, that might have made that period from one of my worst periods to one of our best. You know? Areas of trade, like if the day blows out of the projected range to me, the risk isn't worth it. Well, that might be. If there's one thing I've quantified so far, it's that most of the time the day spends within the projected ranges. Yes, that's definitely, well, that's definitely true of ZN right now. You gotta be, I know it seems like pedantic, right? But you know that if we were to come in here and just say, this is the strategy, when it gets to that level, take the reversal because it spends most of the day within that range, right? There would be all of these people that would be like, okay, that's interesting, but let's try it over in ES. Let's try it when there's a trade war headline. Let's, right? Like, you know, the people are going to do all of the dumb things. Like you and I, we've been around long enough to understand why those things are just objectively stupid. But normal people don't. And it seems to me that in the trading world that it can even turn into like, okay, we're going to talk about this. And then somebody else that's listening to us talk about it is going to be like, okay, I'm going to go and start a trading course on this, right? And then they go and they do it in ES. And even though we know it's kind of silly, like this whole community can sprout up out of that, right? So I've got to, I just can't stand not adding all of the nuance into it, right? There are some things about ZN specifically that are kind of helping this work the way that it does. And it would be a useful level to look at in the S&P 500, but it's probably not going to be nearly as good. Look at the screenshot I sent you. Like, I think I know what you're trying to say, that like it spends most of the time within the range, but because we don't have colors, we need to make one that's like a color so that you can see like, okay, this is like the blue is the extended session, and the yellow is the regular session. And that way I can differentiate between the overlap of those two. And then I have some other color for the, or maybe I don't need colors for the next projection. Because otherwise I kind of have to go like, okay, where did it actually start? Like, where's the center of this? And then I have to count the lines, you know, so it's a little bit hard for me to say like, okay, does it stay within the first? I bet you it probably does. Right, but it's a little hard to see. And then you would probably also be able to see, like at that point, then you kind of almost have bands, and you'd be able to see, okay, here's how much time does it actually spend outside of that, though. Like that would be an interesting thing to look at, right? Is okay, because it does play with those, play around the edges, and then like this day right here, this day right here. It looks like they came to the second, so they started here. Here's the second sigma. They came across it, and then they got shoved back. Okay, and this little period right here, how long was that? Like, can we do a study that's like when it does extend beyond that and comes back? And make a distribution histogram of that. And is it Gaussian? Or is it actually more like... Or it would probably actually be more like... It probably have a tail. Like, it would probably be like... this is 0. Probably be like... I think that's too aggressive. It would probably be like... distribution like that, maybe? I don't know. But if it's a distribution like this, then we could come in and we could say, okay, let's just put some numbers on for the sake of argument. I don't think these are the numbers that they would be. Then we could say, if it goes out, wait 10 minutes and then take the short after 10 minutes or the reversal after 10 minutes. And if the reversal's not working out after 20 minutes, then you stop, because that's the one where it's trend day. Right? That was kind of the whole idea behind the value area high, out value area low, that in mind over markets. That's a specific trade that they talk about. Right? Is like if they extend beyond it and then come back into it and they've been there for more than 20 minutes, then they tend to go all the way back across. Except for that, it's not true. But yeah. I think though, the other thing is I have been like we can totally scrape that number. They actually, bar charts actually has an API, but apparently they don't really want to be. So it's actually kind of weird that they supply this data, because like their business seems to be in completely different stuff, which actually makes me wonder if like maybe it will go away eventually. But I found at least 2 sites that would give us historical options data in futures. And one of them had a free, I think I sent it to you even, didn't I? No, maybe not. We were talking about it, but I don't think I gave you the link. We were definitely talking about it. But I'm just scrolling through here and I don't see any links, so that must mean that I didn't give it to you. Dude, whenever something crazy is happening and I'm seeing it and I'm like, wait, and Uzi had said something about it, I message him and I'm like, you seen this? Like, what is this going on, right? And then he's always like, oh no, I was out walking the dog. And every time, for some reason, every time that I see him saying walking the dog, I'm like, my mind gets all dyslexic and thinks that it says I was winking the dog. It's like, we've got the anti-Hassan over here. He just posts eyes. You're the caveman that put together the idea. You're the brick brain who's got to turn it into a machine. Yeah. Well, because I really do want to get the issue is that the period that we've been watching it is unusual. So like specifically I'm concerned that there's a like if we have this distribution of probabilities, right? I'm afraid that we've got something like this. Right. Where it's like if this one is how well you do when you take the reversal, and this is how well you do when you take the continuation at that level, right? That there's going to be this like, yeah, it works, and then this is like based on the volatility, right? Then there's like, if volatility is low, then you do well over here, and if volatility is high, then you do well over here, right? So if there's these kinds of distributions, then you still have to know whether it's I think that the key is you have to know whether it's a continuation or not, right? And then whether you make money in the long term would be being able to predict when it's a reversal or a continuation really well. And right now that's where right now we're like training our minds all on what we're seeing right now. And so we're going to be prone to always want to take the reversal, right? We're prone to always want to take the reversal, and we might be mistraining ourselves, right? That's A. And then B is, that means that there is a fat tail that you have to manage. So, but then if you can manage those two things, which with being informed and all of that sort of stuff, I think you can kind of pull off. I think you could be pretty successful with it. At least relative to maybe some of the other things that people are trying out there, right? By the way, you want to see something else kind of funny? Yeah, it's a good starting point, yeah. Or at least, well, I don't even know if it's a good starting point as much as it is it's a good factor to include in everything else that we have. And we knew that like volatility was something to factor in, but now we have a really practical, specific way to approach it. So that's really, really good. Anyways, what I was going to show you was, so this is where we bounced, and I was kind of like, oh, that was way stronger than I thought it would be. Sorry, right there. But then, and there was a bounce, and it came back down, and then it bounced again, and where did they stop? Yeah, right at our freaking line. To the tick. Need a better little circle. Did somebody say blind trade the levels? That sounds like a great idea, says April. I mean, I got the idea from your projected range. I just wanted it on the thing I trade. Oh, well, but you know, you can use that on... My goodness. My goodness, boy. You can come in here and you can do ZN on trading view. And then you can add the indicators, the volatility, projected range. And then you come into the settings and you change the name of the index. Wait, actually, what is the name of the index that we want? We want move, right? Bond option PVC. New pane. Okay, well, it doesn't give us intraday data, but it does give us this over here. PVC move. PVC move. Okay. There you go. And then you get the volatility projections. And then what are we using on here? Index, move, style, visibility. Oh wait, how come I don't? You can't change the factor? Alright, I should change that. Because maybe it needs to be less. Maybe it needs to be changed to 16 or whatever. Oh my gosh, I have it on the wrong screen. I'm so dumb. Higher time frame, 1 day. File visibility. Yes. I think I'm using 16 though. Although that seems way too high. So maybe it needs to be adjusted by something like a slightly different multiple. But yeah, you could totally do it with this. Where's my... No, that's not the one that I want. Okay, so we have on here fix, market order balance, unknown column. Make trading view volatility range ratio. Anyways, so we could use the move index and do it with the move index, and I guess you could see how. But I'm gonna bet that the number we're getting from bar chart is better. So we'll also add on there. I don't know if this should be in current, but we'll also add scrape number from bar charts. I can totally make an indicator that would like go into the web browser and scrape it every day. And do that. And then you know, and like have it save the value for you every day and all that sort of stuff. And then get historical options data. So that we could actually like make the naive strategy that just reverses it every time and then see how that performs. I think we really do want to do that. because I think that there'd be two things from it. One is we would be able to see like how does it perform when it works well and when it doesn't work well, and some periods when it worked well and when it doesn't work well. But then the other thing that we can do with it then at that point is we can start saying things like, okay, so what's the best profit taking strategy for this actually? Because I don't know, I like where you take the profits seems confusing to me. Like it doesn't seem consistent. Like this time you were saying back to the open, but other times you were saying this is just how much you would expect based on the ATR of that market at that time. Anyways, we're way past time. I think I should get going. Wake the boys up. And I don't know, maybe I can work on those things a little bit. So, and then I'll see you guys on Monday. So, in the meantime, stay